Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Decoding Now, and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, over the last few weeks, we have seen the awakening of the woke, an Andolan for reform, Gen Z style. The youth have hit the streets. They sat on dharna through rain and shine, and they forced action by the government and the resignation of the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. But more importantly, they did it their way. Well, today we ask, is Gen Z old enough to bulldoze a law to fight paper leak? If they are old enough to force political change, if they are old enough to hit the Sadak, are they old enough to run the Sansad, join the parliament? Are we ready for a Gen Z ki Sarkar? If they are woke enough, but do they also have the wisdom and the experience to go with this wokeism? After all, watch how they held protest. They did it their way, standing alone like a lone wolf as they are encircled by many of the police personnel. We could see them attacking with lathis. Yet they asked for more. Aur maro. That man stood there in the middle saying aur maro to those in RAF. They have used this opportunity of water cannons being fired at them as a dance in the rain moment. Who would have imagined using water cannons, and they started dancing? They are the ones who gave flowers to every cop who beat them, is what they had alleged. But they gave out flowers despite the videos of police excesses. Yes, there were instances of violence, but look at the ones who came out on the streets, the ones who stood tall to sing the national anthem in the heart of the national capital and in several other cities across the length and breadth of the country. They are woke, yes. They are doing protests their side, yes. But is this the right style for the parliament? If they are woke enough to pressurize the government to bring about a bill, to try and bring about a law which will control neat cheats, which will fight paper leaks, should they be having a say in running the country? That's what we are going to be decoding today on Decoding Now. After all, the protests may have achieved their ultimate goal, but the movement is far from over. The question now is, where does Gen Z go from here onwards? Well, interestingly, it's not just about the CJP. After the CJP, the Cockroach Janata Party, there are several others. You have the E20 Janata Party, which has now come to the fore as well. This is an interesting one. They say that they have one demand, one mission. We want the freedom to choose 100% original fuel at discounted price. But look at the number of followers. 280,000 followers are now following E20 Janata Party. This is the kind of emotion that they have managed to stir up amongst the youth. There's also the Reservation Hatao Andolan, another parallel movement which has begun. On Instagram, it already has 4.7 million followers. They are saying there should be zero reservation in India. Interestingly, there's also actor Dhanush. His fan club has also come out. It's number 8 on the Twitter trends, where he said that youth should pick up social issues such as blood donation. The number of mentions which this is doing is 19.8 thousand such mentions have happened. Of course, it sparked off a lot of conversation about Dhanush. Is he now going to join the politics? The point is not that, whether or not Dhanush is going to be joining politics. The point is that there are these calls which are now going out, be it the E20, be it the Cockroach Janata Party, be it the Dhanush fan club, or be it Reservation Hatao Andolan. There are these protests where the youth are now politically becoming active. They have become woke. They've brought this wokeness to politics. The streets are no longer just a place for protest. They are becoming a launchpad for political change as well. In fact, across the world, Gen Z has shown that it can shake governments, that they can actually rewrite political narratives and even force leaders out of office if they come together. Let's remind you, for example, in Bangladesh, remember the entire thing had started with government job quotas. That is what they were demanding, that there should be no quotas in government jobs. It ended, well, yes, the downfall of Sheikh Hasina. In Nepal, there was another protest which had happened. Remember these visuals which we had reported on as well? It started with a demand that there should be an end to corruption. It was an anti-graft movement, but it ended with Sharma Oli's ouster. They have brought down, a Gen Z movement brought down the government of Nepal as well. In India as well, we saw just last week what had happened, over the last few weeks rather. It started with the Cockroach Janata Party saying that enough is enough when it comes to NEET paper leaks. Then it led to education reforms. There is a bill which is going to be introduced, which has been tabled at least in the parliament. And if that happens, that means there are going to be tougher laws against those who are indulging in paper leak. It has also ended with the resignation of the Union Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan. Yes, Gen Z did manage to get a win out of this. So if Gen Z can influence government, should it also have a stronger voice inside the parliament? If they are bringing about legislative changes, if they are bringing about a change in the cabinet itself, should they not reflect their voices inside the temple of democracy, which is the parliament? That's the question Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy is interestingly raising as well. In fact, he has given a call that they must reduce the Lok Sabha's eligibility to 21 years. That youth don't just get a chance to speak up. That it's important that we open the doors to Gen Z in the parliament as well. So what do you think? Do you think Gen Z should now be entering the parliament? Should they now be entering state assemblies and bringing about real change in governance? Well, listen in to the Telangana Chief Minister's contention.
If you put a 25 years cut-off date for contesting Assembly and Lok Sabha, so it is not going to get a chance to raise their voice. So that is why I have told, Bas, this is the time to take a call on this. So for Assembly and Lok Sabha, they have to reduce up to 21 years, and Council and Rajya Sabha, they have to reduce up to 25 years. Then only the youngsters are going to get opportunity, and I would suggest we have to open doors for this Gen Z, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha.
Well, for more than a month-long, protests were held in the heart of the national capital finally came to an end. The focus of exam reforms has now shifted to the parliament, where the government will have to translate its assurances into law. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of disruptions in the parliament, but at the end of it, will there be legislative action? Will there be a law against NEET cheats? That's the question. Well, we are going to be looking at what exactly it is that the mean age of our parliamentarians are. In Lok Sabha, the mean age, the average age of a parliamentarian in Lok Sabha is 56 years old. Let that sink in. An average parliamentarian in the Lok Sabha, the lower house, is at least 56 years old. The youngest that we have is Shambhavi Chaudhary, who's 25 years. She's one of the youngest MPs. There are a couple of others as well of young MPs who are there. And then you have the oldest, which is T.R. Balu. He's 82 years old. He's the oldest MP. And when you look at the Rajya Sabha, remember the eligibility for Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha, for Rajya Sabha is 30 years, for Lok Sabha it is 20 years. But let me tell you about the Rajya Sabha. The youngest one, which is Raghav Chadha, he is 35 years. He is the youngest parliamentarian in the upper house. And on the other hand, you have H.C. Devegowda, the former chief minister, the prime minister. He is 92 years old. He is the oldest parliamentarian. In Rajya Sabha, look at the mean. An average year of 61 years. That is the average. Should this average come down? Well, that's the question. So the question is, how young is too young to make laws? As the debate over Gen Z, there's a political debate which has happened as well, which is gathering momentum. One question takes center stage. The minimum age to enter the parliament, what should that be? Well, remember, India requires candidates to be at least 25 years of age when it comes to the Lok Sabha and 30 years of age for the Rajya Sabha. But there are several other democracies which are now aspiring, or rather trying to get lawmakers who are as young as 18 as well. So in some countries, you have 18 years old also contesting elections. But let's tell you what the cutoff ages are in most of the countries. In India, as I was telling you, it is 25 for Lok Sabha as well as the State Assembly. For Rajya Sabha is 30 years. When it comes to the US, 25-year-olds can contest. When it comes to the UK, it is 18 years. Sweden, it is 18. Look how young the parliamentarians here are likely to be. If 18 years onwards, this is essentially the Gen Z. 18 years onwards, you can contest elections and you can represent the people that you are representing in the Senate, in the Parliament, as whatever your democratic processes are. India, however, is at 25. There are others who are much, much younger, including Canada, Denmark, Australia, Norway, Sweden, UK. Here, everywhere, you can actually contest elections if you're 18 years. Well, the youth has, of course, after all, seen a barrier to power, but around the world. In fact, there's a new generation which has now shattered that perception that youth should be a barrier. They are asking, why should youth stop you from being a people's representative? From lawmakers entering parliament in their teens and 20s to prime ministers taking office before they hit 40. Politics is increasingly now making room for younger and younger leaders. Let's tell you about the youngest MPs from across the world. You have Otto Abel, 18 years old, who is one of the youngest MPs in Sweden. There you have it. He's merely 18 years old. You have Cleo Wilstuk in South Africa, who is 20 years old. She is also one of the youngest MPs in the world. Then you have Sam Carling in UK, 22 years old. And in India, we have Shambhavi Chaudhary, amongst a few others as well, who are 25 years and are MPs in India. But look at the youngest prime ministers. Across the world, we are going to tell you about the youngest prime ministers. You have Sanna Marin, who is merely 34 years old. She's from Finland, and she is the youngest prime minister in the world. Then you have Balin Shah, who's currently the prime minister of Nepal. He, of course, was propped up by the students themselves after they managed to bring down Sharma Oli's government. You have Rob Jetten, he's 30 years old. He is the prime minister of Netherlands. And then you have Shinawatra. She is 37 years old, and she is from Thailand. So she is part of one of the youngest prime ministers that we have here in the world. So Gen Z clearly has emerged as one of the defining political forces of this very decade. From filling the streets to forcing governments into the back foot, you have young protesters who have shown that they can reshape national politics. But grabbing headlines is only the first step towards protests into lasting reforms in the real change. Why do we say that? Because just because you've managed to bring about a government change doesn't mean that you've actually transformed the system. For example, what happened in Nepal? Remember, there was outrage over the self-immolation of a rideshare rider whose bike was impounded. This was under Balin Shah. This incident snowballed into a wider anti-establishment movement. Now there is pressure which is mounting on the Nepal Prime Minister, Balin Shah himself, to resign. So the man who was propped up by the Gen Z, now the Gen Z wants him gone. Is this lasting change, is the question. There are other places also where many have said Gen Z simply does not have the experience to run a country. In Indonesia, remember, there was a youth-led protest which forced the government to rethink key legislations. But many of the promised reforms at the time remained stalled. The momentum of the youth movement has also faded with time. So how do you make a Gen Z movement sustainable? That is about cracking the code. Then in Serbia, there were student-led anti-graft protests which had happened. It rattled the political establishment. Yet many of the structural reforms they demanded are still out of reach. So everyone says that yes, indeed, you need the enthusiasm. But there are others who ask, what about the experience? So are you, the viewers, ready for Gen Z Ki Sarkar? Let's put that question across to our panelists. Today, we are joined by Jawahar Sarkarji. He is a former Rajya Sabha MP of the TMC. He is one of the veterans in the parliament. Thank you so much, sir, for being here on Times Now. There's also Mumtaz Patel, Congress leader, a young Turk, of course. A lot of political history that you have come from. You have political lineage on your side. But you are also a face for Gen Z, for a change in the entire system. So I'm going to start first with Jawahar Sarkar. We've seen the Gen Z bring about a change, and they've done commendable job when it comes to pushing for their needs. A lot of it was violence-free, so let's point that out. But they've managed to attain what they had started. Why shouldn't they have a voice inside the parliament as well?
I agree with you. I agree with you for a different reason altogether. India's present demography will show you that around 70%, that's quite a lot, 69% to be more precise, 69% of India is between 15 and 64 years, 15 and 64.
Right.
So if you take between 15 and 25, it will be a solid 12 to 14%. Now, by insisting on this age bar of 25 for Lok Sabha and 30 for Rajya Sabha, you are actually depriving a large section of the youth from participating. 24% of India is still below 15 years, and just 7%, 8% is in our age group. There has been. Point is, it's not only assuring that the youngsters get a chance to come into parliament, it's also absolutely necessary the way we are blowing up the demographic dividend.
Yes.
We have a huge demographic dividend for the next 10, 12 years. And we have absolutely nothing ready for this demographic advantage. There's nothing special for them. The young, raring to go youngsters have no future, which was pretty apparent from the agitation. So, unless they have their voices in parliament, we can't expect people of our generation to be standing. Of course, they do. But it would make much more sense if they had a large quota of youngsters between, I would say, between 18. I would go up to 18 because politics starts early. Maybe 20, maybe 21. If you can start voting from 18, you jolly well can stand for elections at 18. But anyway, let's make it 21 so that college and graduation is over. So if you start from 21 and you have a large section, they would focus, they would actually impact upon any government. I am not talking of political parties, to turn around the policies from that always structured policy to something that is focused on drawing the best advantage of the most vibrant section of the youth.
Okay.
That's my logic.
Okay, let me go across to Mumtaz Patel. Gen Z, although they are the wokest of them all, they have the fanciest ideas, many of them are revolutionary in many ways. But here is the criticism. What the millennials always say, Gen Z doesn't have stickiness. They don't have the seriousness. The critics say that yes, they can come hold protests, but when things go wrong, they don't know how to handle it. Because one thing that they don't have, wisdom and experience. Can enthusiasm alone make up for that gap?
Hi, you know, I don't know how to answer that question because it is yet to be tried and tested. We only see all the seniors in the parliament. We see a certain age group that is always in control. Coming from a political family and a background, my father won the election in 1977 when he was 26 years old. He was the youngest MP in the Lok Sabha at that point of time. And you can see his trajectory, you can see his journey, that 40 years he reached a certain position within the Congress party and as a member of parliament also. And he was then at the end a veteran leader, if you call it. But if you're not going to give a chance to the younger generation today, between 13 years of age to 35, I think we're about 40 plus population, 40% of the Indian population. Times have changed. The world has changed. Technology has changed. The way that you approach life has changed. So I think you need younger people in the system and policy making. But more than that, I think it is very, very important that the way we have a certain criteria in terms of education and degrees for any kind of jobs, I think that is much needed for you to enter the Indian parliament. I think you need to have a certain degree and a level of education to be within the system.
Okay, that's an interesting point. That you need to have your education, finish your education so that you are better informed. And I think I will take your point because Jawahar Sarkar, we have seen great Gen Z revolutions, but we've also seen them fizzle out. I was citing some of these examples in the past as well. What happened in Nepal? They brought down Oli, then they propped up Balen Shah, but at the end of it, now they are not happy with Balen Shah either. What happened in Bangladesh? That nation literally went into complete anarchy where there were people, sections of people who were being persecuted under a radical regime which came to light. We saw much bloodshed because it appears that those who were leading the protest, the revolution, did not know which way to steer it towards. That is where experience would have counted. Wouldn't you agree, Jawahar Sarkar?
I do agree, but you see the limited point here is what is the age at which we allow youngsters to come into politics, come into, let us say, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The fact that if you lower the age to say 21 doesn't mean that all the MPs will be 21. Only a small section will be 21 and they can provide the heat. Moot point. For instance, I did not want to join politics. I got into the Rajya Sabha because I was nominated to represent West Bengal. I could last about 3 years because professional politics is a very dirty game. And let me assure you, professional politics is a very dirty game, whether it be a 25-year-old youngster or whether it be an 85-year-old old man. Professional politics all over the world is like that.
You're very
but
candid,
remember,
but yes, many would agree. I'm sure Mumtaz will as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree that these
but
correct.
remember, it is this dirty politics.
Yes, go ahead, Jawahar Sarkar ji.
But despite this, despite all this, remember, this dirty politics produced people like Abraham Lincoln, like Mahatma Gandhi. So there is a section that knows how to navigate its way through, there's a section that knows how to navigate its way through through the, let us say, the undesirable part. So right now, the discussion is, what is the age to lower the bar? I am all in favor, Mumtaz I'm sure is in favor, of lowering the bar. In fact, it's a very, very pertinent question that this present movement has thrown up.
Which is why we're having this conversation. Bring it down to 21. One quick question. I'm running out of time. Sorry for that. But Mumtaz Patel, one quick question. Where is the Gen Z movement today headed towards? Do you think it's going to clean up the parliament and dirty politics, as everyone seems to be calling it?
You know, it's too early to say that, but the fact that the Gen Z and the younger generation is realizing what their priorities are and they are going beyond the propaganda and narrative that this government has used over many years, in fact, to brainwash their parents and their grandparents. I think we have to give credit to the Gen Z that they're looking towards their future. They're looking towards better India. They're looking towards a better life. And I think that is the most important thing, because to understand that India is not heading that way, you can see that their minds are in the right places. So let's not discredit the Gen Z for saying and dismiss the Gen Z for being non-serious. I don't think so. This protest has
let's not dismiss the Gen Z. They may be the next ones to rule. Gen Z ki Sarkar, as many are calling it. But let's hope for the very best. At best, if nothing else, there is going to be a refreshing viewpoint with 21-year-olds in a parliament. I think we can all agree on that. Thank you so much, Jawahar Sarkar. Pleasure to have you on the show, as well as Mumtaz Patel. Good to have you here and your perspective. With that, we wrap up Decoding Now.